Hello, friends, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Our Life, Beginnings, and Always Baxter's Route. In the last episode, I ended up having to split the recording in half. As I tend to do in Our Life, I just don't know when the moments are going to end. And this episode is the latter half of hanging out, going to the beach, getting some ice cream, doing all the good things. It is definitely a fun, cozy time, and I'm excited for you guys to be able to see it. So let's just hop in. It was back to the drawing board on what to do next. After a while, the gang mutually decided it would be best to go do something that was not water-based. The five of you continued to have a good time. You went on a shell hunt. Miranda managed to find the biggest, while you found the most colorful. Cobb caught a tiny crab. You did a bit of everything. There were impromptu games to just soaking up in each other's company. However, after a while, you all ran out of water. Drinkable water, anyways. It was decided that you'd head to Cove's house or yours. Things were gathered, and you started to cheerfully walk up the road. What's next? I don't have anywhere to go, so it could be whatever.
Yeah?
Same. I guess we can keep hanging out. Terry snorted and readjusted her grip on her things. Don't sound too sure there, Cove. By this point, you could see your house. It hadn't taken you long to make the trip. The conversation continued with everyone throwing out suggestions. Are people hungry? She looked from face to face in inspection. Cove and Miranda shrugged in concert. Baxter didn't react. No one was overtly opposed to it. However, you weren't really starving. It wasn't quite a mealtime. We could get dessert. Miranda put a finger to her lip and thought. With a smile, her voice became more confident. Yeah, that would be fun. Terry considered it and then shot Miranda a thumbs up.
Sure.
Sounds great to me. I can definitely go for that. Well, you could always go for that. You know I'm up for more. When the topic of dessert was raised, Baxter hummed with interest. This caught everyone's attention, as nothing else had drawn a comment from him in a while. Okay, Sweet Tooth?
What do you think?
If that's the next event, would we be willing to try ice cream and similar frozen treats? Sure. I like the sound of that.
Why?
Baxter shook his head ruefully. Truthfully, the one thing I have wanted to do while I'm here is to see an ice cream truck in person. Okay. It's been a while since I've heard an ice cream truck. But, you could do that any day. You just hear the sound going off, you run out with, $1 or $2. And you get yourself SpongeBob, whose eyes are, down here. My hometown doesn't have one, and neither is there one around my campus. It's a summer tradition that I have missed. You and Cove stared at him blank-faced. Miranda pressed her lips together and shot a glance at Terry. Her expression was like a stone. Well, that's a dramatic drop in mood. Am I being Am I being a tourist right now? He was entirely off in the guess. Baxter could only watch help. I can't say anything. Baxter could only watch helplessly as the people around him remained unusually sober. Cove voiced the consensus of the locals. I've never been to an ice cream truck either. Oh my god, you guys.
What?
Are you serious? Miranda nodded her head, and Baxter's composure shifted into incredulity. Me neither.
Nope.
Same. That's a never from me as well. What the fuck, you guys? Oh my god. There isn't an ice cream truck in Sunset Bird. Oh my god, you guys. Not even... I assume you guys are talking about, a little... a truck that just sits there and you go to it, whereas I'm talking about one that goes through your neighborhood. But even, just a little stand that you go into and you get ice cream? What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
That's
Okay, we have an ice cream stand on the shopping street. It's not exactly the same, but that's how it is. Oh, and sometimes we get ice cream at the park during events. That was from a cardboard box, though. Still, not a truck. I've only gone to ice cream parlors and gotten ice cream from the freezer part of grocery stores.
Me too.
Uh-huh, but sometimes my family makes it homemade. That is the worst. I hate making homemade ice cream. Baxter grinned, for once on the same grounds as his new companions. I've normally only eaten it at restaurants after a meal. I never realized that ice cream trucks were so rare. Me neither, my dude. Unexpectedly, Cove was the first to agree with Baxter. He narrowed his eyes and spoke firmly. Then yeah, let's find a truck. I've got to do it at least one time.
Yeah!
Baxter's onto something. We've all been missing out. Terry raised a fist into the air in a dramatic pose. There has to be an ice cream truck somewhere in California. We have a plan. Baxter brightened more, seeing his suggestion receive support. Miranda smiled at him. You could only guess at her first impression of Baxter, but given how she had relaxed around him, you imagined he was growing on her. He wasn't as exceedingly self-assured as he came across at first blush, but it was nicer when Baxter was confident.
Let's do it!
That sounds fun. Let's look it up. Miranda reached into her bag and dug around for her phone. She pulled out a hair scrunchie, a small notepad with unicorns, and a bundle of chunky keychains. Her phone remained elusive. Just give me a sec. The rest of the group's mouths pulled into tentative, hopeful grins. There was an air of slight disbelief. Cove molded over while tapping his foot. Wherever it is, we're gonna have to drive to get there. I think so. None are in town, right? And everywhere else is far away. She finally retrieved her phone and started to search on her Maps app. She tapped her screen with a frown. How are you gonna find an ice cream truck? On a map app. They're moving.
I'm not sure.
It's already late afternoon, too. I wonder if ice cream trucks are even still going around. We have to believe. It's too soon to give up. Cove nodded, patting at his pockets. They were tellingly empty. I'll get my keys.
It's doable.
No need, allow me. I asked to do this. It's only fair that I be the one to cover transportation. Besides, it's a rental. We might as well make the most of it while I have it. Alright. Cove raised his shoulders in a bewildered shrug. Baxter ran his fingers through his hair to swipe his bangs, and they fell exactly back into place after. I'll return in only a moment. Terry shot him a thumbs up, and Miranda mumbled absent-mindedly, focused on her task. Baxter flipped towards his condo and headed off, his strides long and determined.
Oh.
Cove raised his voice at Baxter's back. We'll put our stuff away while you're off doing that. Baxter peered over his shoulder and answered.
Good.
Baxter was soon out of sight, and Cove had gathered up all his things into a sturdy hold. He gestured with his chin to his house. We can use my place for storage. Me too. You were on board with that. You shifted your things around so they'd be more comfortable to move. Thanks, Cove. You're so lucky your dad doesn't care about how much sand you're always dragging into the house. My moms are not like that. Yeah, I am lucky. Cove led the group to file into the Holden household. Miranda brought up the rear, stumbling behind Terry. She was being led by the arm while still keeping her eyes on her phone. Sandy towels were dropped in a heap on the living room, one after the other. No one wasted even a second with the organization, taking cues from Cove's rush. I need a minute. Gonna grab a shirt. He darted down the hall, his steps loud on the hard floor. Oh. I'm wearing a shirt. Cove returned, now decent in his Orca t-shirt. Terry hooked her arm around Miranda's and used her other hand to wave towards the door. When you got out, you could see Baxter's shiny black vehicle idling on the street and awaiting its passengers. Cove went for a seat in the back without consideration. He was not going to be in the front. But you would. No, legitimately, I will take the front seat. Because I feel like Terry and Miranda should sit together. With you going to the passenger seat, Miranda and Terry followed Cove.
Hello.
Welcome to my car, friends. Do we know where we're going? Miranda nodded slightly and leaned forward to hold her phone up. Damn, maybe Miranda should have sat in the front seat. Her persistence had bared fruit. There's some suburbs surrounding the city where ice cream trucks have routes during the summer. I can't tell exactly where they're going to be when we get there, though. That's more than enough. The two conferred on directions until Baxter decided to route towards a random neighborhood street in the area as a starting point. He took off, the car gliding across the road with minimum vibration affecting the cabin. Who cares? It was the smoothest ride you'd ever had in a vehicle. Who cares? In the heat of the excitement, Terry reached up from the middle seat and punched on the music. Did you guys want to sit in the front? I'm sorry. They connected to Baxter's song list, and your eardrums were struck by the pounding of a regular drum. As opposed to an irregular drum, okay? A guitar riff shrieked out after. It was on a punk metal track. You leaned back in your seat, satisfied. This was your kind of music. Who knew it was his? I listen to anything I can hear. As the drive continued, the music brought an almost surreal feel to the trip. The shredding guitars and shouted lyrics were a weird contrast to your goal of finding an ice cream truck. It inserted the humorous mental picture of an ice cream truck playing screaming punk metal instead of twinkling tunes to summon children for icy treats. Zipping through the length of Sunset Bird in no time, you flew past the now leaving sign. Past that, the car zoomed down the open road while Miranda attempted to dig up more details on the elusive ice cream trucks. Do they have socials? Maybe someone tagged them in a pic or they're live tweeting.
Huh?
Why would an ice cream truck be on Twitter? I can't even find out their hours for sure. I believe in you. Minutes added up, as did the miles. The city got closer, but the shadows closed in faster. The sun glinted from behind distant skyscrapers. Calling it late afternoon was being generous. It was evening. Unspoken tension began to form. The odds of an ice cream truck being active dropped with every passing second. But Miranda continued the search and Baxter kept driving. I don't know why we're going into the city. Ice cream trucks don't go just in the middle of town. They go into neighborhoods. As planned, he turned off the highway and followed the streets into the heart of the suburbs. He rolled through neighborhoods aimlessly until... Yes! Miranda beamed and shoved her phone up to the front. You found one? Online? There's a truck that's still open and nearby. It was on Facebook. I think if we go down their route, we'll find it at some point.
No way.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, who uses Facebook? People who want ice cream. Let's go. Please direct me. I can't read the post. First, take a left at this next stop sign. Baxter clicked off the music to focus on Miranda's words. He also opened his window. Terry and Co. followed Baxter's lead, but Terry could get further and pushed her head out the window as far as the seatbelt would let her, hands cupped around her ears. Listen to that sweet, sweet sound. Cove would lean farther out when he saw anything even kind of truck-shaped. Everyone had their ears and eyes wide open for any signs. If an ice cream truck was somewhere in the area, they weren't going to miss it. You opened yours too. It took a second to locate the correct button on the door. How many buttons do you have, Baxter? It was as sleek and unobtrusive as the rest of the machine, and that made it tricky to see when you didn't know where to look. You pressed it down until the last beside you completely disappeared. At such a slow pace, the wind coming through whipped at your hair gently, pleasantly. Much less nicely, a fine dust blew in from the street. Oh god. You squinted against the dirt and the sun. It had sunk low enough to be perpendicular with your eyeline. Still no truck to be seen. The houses you passed seemed older, probably built decades ago. Some had colorful lawn decorations and well-kept flower gardens. Others were nothing but green grass. Conversation stopped entirely once Miranda had told Baxter all he needed to know. He drove through the residential streets like a hunter on the prowl. The target could have been anywhere. He turned a corner. Faint laughter filtered in through the windows. That's the truck. You heard birds chirping and rustling leaves. Is it not the truck? Have you ever heard an ice cream truck? They laugh. It's weird. It's especially weird, because at the very least, the one from my childhood would occasionally, you'd hear like a sound and then it would go, hello. It is so fucking weird. You're just like sitting there. Maybe it's quiet or maybe you're listening to something, whatever. And then you just hear a voice, hello. What? But in that moment, none of that mattered. That's not what you needed. Fingers were crossed and breaths were held. Baxter turned yet again towards the signs of life, and a new sound gradually floated in from the distance. You concentrated on the high-pitched, jingling tune. Was it? It had to be. It was the musical call of an ice cream truck. Nobody could see it yet, despite there being watchers on all sides, but the song got louder, and then we ran into the truck. Baxter followed it persistently, his fingers tightening their grip on the wheel. That jingle was the Pied Piper, and everyone was drawn in by it. The car came up to a crossroads and stopped. That instant, a clamor filled the car. Everyone, even the ever-relaxed Baxter, cheered or gasped in sync. An ice cream truck drove right by, in front of your very eyes. It was technically white, but covered in so many brightly colored pictures, the original paint was more of an accent. Stickers with warnings such as Go Slow and Watch for Children stood out in red, and recognizable characters in edible versions were in a grid, labeling them as A1 or C3 for convenient ordering. It was like a moving treasure chest of frozen goodness, and the temptation was too strong for some. Still in the middle of the intersection, Cove's door popped open, and his seatbelt zipped up against the cushion with nothing left to protect. Cove was gone. He just fucking yeeted himself out of the vehicle, okay. No, I'm going to wait until we come to a good stop. Terry and Miranda went after Cove. Great. Terry, with her usual exuberance, yelled. Should I do it like the Kool-Aid man? I'm not gonna do that. Well, I appreciate their enthusiasm. He glanced at you, not taking the turn just yet. Are you going? No thanks.
You're good.
You're very polite. You didn't think it was much. You weren't so impatient that you'd throw yourself out onto the street or abandon the one who drove you there. The rest of them could handle that. Cove jogged after the truck. Terry cheered and waved, trying to catch the driver's attention. Miranda skipped behind her, moving her arms in wide motions. The truck lurched to a stop. They'd done it! Excellent. Excitement was plain on his face, but Baxter cautiously turned to where the truck and your friends had gone. He parked on the opposite side and opposite end of the nearly empty street. Baxter grinned as he finally unbuckled. Shall we? You know, after all this trouble we went through to get here, I'll have to think about that one. Baxter snorted and clapped a hand over his mouth. Okay. Time to get that ice cream. Ooh, interesting. We even get to see the background. This is new. Nice. You left the What street sign is that? Where are we? You left the properly stopped vehicle and crossed the street together. The other three huddled around the large menu pasted on the broad side of the truck. As you joined the group, you could feel the anticipation of a kid on their birthday. Except it was somehow everyone's birthday at the same time. Up close, you could see the images were faded. They weren't as vibrant as they should have been, and chips of paint were flaking off. If anything, the wear and tear increased the charm. It was real, and it was just what you imagined. You were finally experiencing a quintessential summer ritual. Oh my god, we even get to see- this is so nice. They have so many ice creams! Man, I got to choose between like maybe 6 to 10 on a good day. The order window lifted, and the driver gave a hearty greeting. Good evening. Good evening to you. Hi.
Hey!
Hello.
Sorry.
Hi. Thanks for stopping for us. Sorry for chasing you. Man, she gets chased all day. It's fine. No, thank you for stopping by. Can I get you something? No, we just wanted you to stop.
Absolutely.
He beamed with victory, a cat who got his cream. Then he gave his first check over the options and shrugged. However, we do require a moment. Of course, no problem. Take your time. That started the great ice cream discussion. Ice cream was serious business and took consideration. Miranda was firmly in the camp of actual ice cream options, making the valid point that you'd come for ice cream. Okay, but when has an ice cream truck ever had actual ice cream? It's always those little ones on the stick. Are you imagining a cone? Does this truck have just ice cream cones? Terry wasn't convinced. Neither was Cove. Getting ice cream obviously didn't mean you actually had to get ice cream. Anything from the truck counted. Like, I know there's drinks, it says. And I can maybe see an ice cream sandwich, but the debate ended with no agreed upon winner. Everyone just got what they wanted. Hi again. I'd like a coconut popsicle. Sure, let me get that for you. She reached over into a freezer and pulled out the first of the treats. She handed it off to Cove and he passed her some cash. I'll have one of the snow cones! And can I have a chocolate dipped ice cream cone, please? The D4? They both received their treats, paid, and stepped away to clear the way. You decided to order. What the fuck does this thing have? Holy shit, popsicles. A lot of popsicles. Ice cream sandwich, an ice cream cone? Oh my god, this is like... This is the ice cream truck. Chocolate dipped ice cream cone, a cartoon face popsicle, an ice cream taco, a snow cone, a sundae cup, a frozen lemonade cup. I can't decide, actually. I thought we were just gonna have popsicles. Wow, okay, so I could have an ice cream sandwich. I'm kind of also like, ooh, a snow cone. Ooh. A snow cone? Or an ice cream sandwich? A snow cone? Or an ice cream sandwich? That's such a difficult decision. I think I'm gonna go ice cream sandwich just because it sounds better right now. But a snow cone? Oh man. If this was a truck that only did snow cones, I would be ecstatic. The fact that I have to choose... Heaven is a place on earth. You've always liked that kind of thing. Shut up. Yes, I know, I ordered an ice cream sandwich with Shiloh. Don't worry about it. Baxter, meanwhile, had yet to finish staring at the menu. Should I have ordered slower? I would like an ice cream. With intense scrutiny, his eyes went over the rows of advertised frosty desserts long after everyone else had theirs. You are a Libra. It's okay, I am too. It was getting awkward, especially for the lady in the truck, who would be stuck there until he finally got around to ordering something. Terry tried to break the ice, or ice cream, and cracked a joke. Get the ice cream sundae cup. The ice cream is totally white and the chocolate sauce looks almost black. Oh, okay, I get it now. I was like, what does that have to do with anything? Monochrome, I got it. She found that to be a side splitter, but it didn't even make a dent in Baxter's reverie. The world around him was lost to the palace of his mind. Oh my goodness. Baxter? Still no reaction. A new strategy was needed. Terry stuck a hand right in front of his face. I was gonna do that. Cutting him off from the pictures, taking all of his attention. He blinked, and the spell of those tantalizing treats was broken.
I'm sorry.
Is something the matter? That's what we wanted to ask you. You've been quiet for a while. Yes, I have been. Baxter put a hand to his chin and popped his hip out to one side. Ooh, get it, girl. The focus that had been so centered on the truck was now set upon the rest of you. With that pose and his already eccentric style, Baxter looked like a side character in a cartoony mystery game. One who was definitely not the criminal, but still needed to be cross-examined for important details. My problem is this. I'm unsure if I should get a dessert that's to my usual taste. If I do, I'd be certain to enjoy what comes from the ice cream truck. That would be nice. But on the other hand, this may happen only once. Perhaps it'd be more rewarding to get something new, an option that would be challenging to find in a common store. Which will add more to the experience. Indulgence or novelty. I want to make the right choice. Oh my god, he's me! He's me! This is just, if you play this game and you romance Baxter, you're just romancing me! Oh no. Don't make me choose! You could get more than one. I don't think, because even I was thinking that, I was like, what if I got both a snow cone and the ice cream sandwich? But then I was like, those two don't go together. And it's probably the same thing. Like if you wanted to order a snow cone and ice cream, technically they go together, okay? There was a store near where I used to live that sold both Italian ice, shaved ice, and ice cream together. That was like their whole shtick. I never got it because I was like, those two don't go together, I don't think. You either get one or the other. You listened to Baxter vent his concerns as he worked through them. Listen, man, I can't make a decision for you either. But he could reach no conclusion. Once again, Baxter was falling into deep consideration. You could see it in his distant eyes. Terry saw what was up herself. She cut straight to the simplest solution before it was too late. Don't pick, get both.
Thanks.
Thank you. I believe I'll do just that.
Fun!
Okay. Listen, we just went through a whole thing about me talking about that. Success. Indeed. But now you're going to have to bear with me. He said it so teasingly, it was all self-directed. I promise that's not what you think, I'm being entirely honest. I'm going to get my preferred treat of this type to eat, okay? At least for one of them. Okay, why would we have a problem with that? Fuck you. That's because my favorite is an ice cream sandwich. Terry and Miranda exploded into laughter. That's what I should have suggested, not the sundae.
So great.
It's a perfect black and white selection for Baxter. You laughed freely along with the others. Baxter ran his hands across his bangs, his smile sweeping into a grin at the same time. It was obvious he knew exactly what he was doing. Far from being bothered by your laughter, it seemed like that was what he was aiming for all along.
You know.
I cannot deny that I originally tried them because of the colors. It had been picked out for me because they assumed I'd appreciate having a black and white dessert, which I did. But they are the tastiest type of simple ice cream treat to me. It's simply a coincidence. Or perhaps it was meant to be.
Uh-huh.
If you insist, monsieur. I believe you. Go get your sandwich. Baxter approached the truck determinedly and leaned against the counter. He spoke briefly to the patient ice cream lady, then money was exchanged. In return, he got his prizes. Coveted ice cream truck treats were finally in his hands. If your second is fucking shaved ice. Baxter already explained his first choice, the one he knew he'd like, but the other option, the one he could only get from an ice cream truck, was a mystery. Oh. SpongeBob, I get it. He held it up for the curious onlookers. In his grip was a damp wrapper that boldly stated what laid underneath. A creamy popsicle made to look like a cute girl with bubblegum pieces in the eyes. Yeah. SpongeBob. She was a character from an ever-popular cartoon show. A sweet thing colored mostly by blues and yellows, and overall mildly out of place for a man like Baxter Ward to possess. Baxter was living on the edge that evening. Cove snorted a laugh. Terry applauded. Oh yeah, you can't get that in a grocery store.
Yep.
Or at a restaurant, and it'd be really hard to make yourself. You've done good, Baxter. Entirely straightforward, Baxter made his intentions known. This will be the first and last time I consume a small girl's face. Ideally. You nodded approvingly. After one more thanks to your crowd, the ice cream sales lady shut the side window. Then the truck slowly began to move. Your friends shouted and waved and gave grand farewells, wishing her well on her journey, bringing treats to young and old. She beeped the horn a couple times in a cheer of her own. The truck eventually disappeared beneath the skyline, and you, along with the others, ambled across and up the road towards Baxter's car with treats in hand. Miranda and Terry giggled about something you couldn't quite catch. But it became apparent the minute they exchanged cones and took a lick each. Actually, using the word lick might have been generous. Terry? A peek at Miranda's half-eaten ice cream and the vanilla and chocolate smeared all over Terry's mouth said all that was needed to be said about the situation. Terry pitched forward, clutching her head, the cone nearly hurtling to the ground as she pressed it into her temples with both hands. Uh-huh.
Ooh.
Karmic justice. Brain freeze, huh? How tragic. She was so young. Cove looked to the sky and shrugged. Oh well. You elbowed him in the ribs and he went staggering off, clutching the most grievous wound. Then Cove pinched the edge of his popsicle stick, waving it like an accusatory finger in Terry's direction, before taking a bite off the top. The regret was immediate on his face the minute he crunched down on it. He stiffened into a Cove-sicle. Luckily, both Tove and Carrie made full recoveries after a minute. I don't want Coves. He got coconut. I don't like coconut. I don't... Okay, Miranda got, just ice cream with chocolate. Who cares? Terry... What did Terry get? Shaved ice? A popsicle? I don't know. And I don't... Baxter got an ice cream sandwich. I got an ice cream sandwich. I do not want to eat the face of a little girl. I don't like those. I don't feel like sharing with anyone. I will enjoy my frozen treat quietly. You realized how few times you'd actually had a dessert like that all summer. It used to be something you actively strove for as a kid. Now, if Baxter hadn't suggested it, it may not have even happened. You were grateful you had the chance and intended to savor it as much as possible. The others continued chatting as you clocked that there was a notably absent figure from the party. Where did you go? It was your fifth and newest addition to the group, who also happened to be the one who drove you guys here and made the plan in the first place. Baxter, are you stuck because now you can't decide which one you want to eat first? Your eyes followed the retreating backs of Miranda and Terry, then to Cove, who already started to outpace you the minute you relaxed. You attempted to see if Baxter had gone even further ahead. He just fucking lost? There were no signs of that monochromatic color scheme you'd gotten so good at spotting. Oh my god. A low chuckle from behind you gave away the ghost. Bitch. His tone was chill as always, but it was even more fitting considering the theme of the moment. Frozen delights.
Oh?
I wonder what it is that you're searching for, Kit. I didn't know where you went, fucker. Now that you noticed him again, you didn't know how you couldn't have earlier. He'd been as quiet as you were the entire time, but usually he commanded attention even when standing there. But he didn't. Instead, he hung out at the very end of the crowd, inspecting his dessert with the gravity of a man who'd only just faced his fear of the ocean for the first time. We got the same thing, game! Oh, well, we can chill. He slowed to a stop altogether and waved on the others when they checked on you. Okay, no, we're like really chilling. Hey, how you doing? They can't leave without us. Quick, run. Never return. Baxter's walk turned into a brief jog, aware that you were waiting and not wanting to keep you. It wasn't long before he came up from behind. You fell into step beside him, the two of you silent as he passed a wondering glance in your direction. You were just in the back of the pack. At one point, he opened his mouth like he was going to ask you something, then decided against it. Instead, he smiled, small, practically hidden, but not absent.
Excellent.
Would you care to try my popsicle? It is intriguing. If you're offering, Baxter passed over the popsicle to you for your appraisal. I don't think that I like it, but it was flavored faintly by freezer burn and bubblegum. That was the conclusion you drew after getting a good lick to the back of his popsicle. But it didn't really taste of anything. At least not with any certainty. Sorry, I'm still laughing at that. I am a child. Okay. Baxter watched quietly, in no rush to get it back. You could have another try if you wished. That worked for you. Another sample was to be taken so you could check if your initial impressions were off. The results were, it tasted the same. Better, maybe? Perhaps a third try would give you a resolution. No, I'm okay. The look on your face must have said it all, because he shrugged. The possibility that he may never get it back was starting to go, I don't want it! I should have bought 2 of those instead of 2 different treats. No, it's fine, I'm done. As tempting as it was, you did refrain from further test-taking. Maybe there were some mysteries in this world that couldn't be solved.
Hey, buddies.
Hey. Terry waved, her snow cone on high, as she called to the both of you. When did the others get to the car? Alright, we're coming. You called to her before you and Baxter took off. Up the street. Terry pointed her partially melted snow cone towards Baxter as soon as he came close enough. I wanted to try yours too. Mine's a little slushy now, but that's half the appeal. He gave his cartoon face popsicle to Terry, taking the paper cone in exchange. And, for reference, what is the other half? Turns your tongue blue.
Really?
Didn't you get a cherry? Yep. What? Cove shook his head, but didn't have it in him to get involved with that conversation. After they each got a chance to try each other's desserts, Baxter and Terry swapped again. Then Baxter leaned against his car hood while everyone else happily situated themselves around the area. Randy and Terry took seats on the sidewalk curb, apparently heatedly debating the possibility of blue cherry being a real flavor. No. Terry had a fair argument, considering raspberries weren't blue, and yet blue raspberry did exist for some reason, but that is a completely different flavor from raspberry. Blue raspberry is just blue raspberry. It doesn't taste like raspberry. Listen, blue raspberry is my favorite flavor. It's a completely separate thing from just normal raspberry. Cove hovered nearby, couching himself on the summer-warmed asphalt. He stretched and strained, trying to lick a stream of melted coconut popsicle running down his arm. You remember you can't lick your elbow, right? You never could. Ignoring your well-intentioned warning, he pressed on, his face squished against his forearm, tongue angling to try anyway. I can do it. It's personal now. The limits of the human body were a pain, but it was still pretty funny to watch him try to fight against it. With the absence of the ice cream truck's music and the thrill that came with that, the street seemed entirely different. Yeah, I mean, we're just hanging out in the middle of somebody's neighborhood. We don't even live here. Houses quietly lined the street, and you now heard the rush of the wind. Branches swayed overhead in the breeze, and leaves rustled. It didn't carry the comforting smell of sea salt.
So?
Here we are. Terry heartily licked the side of her snow cone. She leaned on her fist, the arm propped up on a raised knee. Her tongue was extremely blue now. What the hell? Far away from where we should belong, and who knows where, camped out in front of some random suburban person's house. Miranda tilted her head back to look up at the mailbox mounted to the concrete. Rocking to one side, she craned her head to get a read of what number was on the side of it.
Thanks.
Thank you to the fine people of 231. Whatever this street is.
Thanks.
They didn't do anything for us. Thanks, ice cream truck lady. Right, and thanks for driving us all the way out here, Bax. Can I call you Bax? Before you could answer, Terry sucked a bit of air and waved it off.
Nah.
No, that's not right. I'll work on it. Baxter chuckled, taking another lick of his popsicle. There's no need to thank me. It was exactly what I wanted to do. It was totally worth it. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely. Absolutely. The sky grew pinker and yellower, and you knew the day was soon going to come to a close. Somehow it felt wrong. It had gone too fast to be over, though summer never seemed long enough those days. As you were about to voice that thought, you heard the dim sound of something gurgling. That immediately replaced the words that came out. Hey, did you guys hear that? I did. Yeah, what is it? Neither of the boys replied to the question, except for shakes of the head and shrugs in the negative. There was no time for a follow-up question because the answer came in the form of a psh. Water bubbled and then shot up in graceful arcs all around. What the fuck? We're in the middle of somebody's neighborhood. Droplets splattered on the paved driveways and were coming towards the sidewalk next. Oh, they're sprinklers! Randy made a break for it, dashing into the street with the speed of an Olympian sprinter. Why do you have your sprinklers going on in the middle of the day, just like in the evening? What? Did you just bark? Randy, wait up! Terry leapt onto her feet. Her shoes hit the concrete with wet slaps while Baxter wordlessly searched for cover himself from the surprise spray, meandering away without any urgency. He responded with remarkable poise about the whole thing, unbothered by the fact that he'd gotten wet today after all. Baxter even had time to finish the last bit of his desserts. You took it in stride yourself. I don't really care. Sure, you'd gotten a little bit wet, but water was water, and you were hardly a stranger to it. You used to run through the sprinklers as a kid. It would dry pretty quick. But Cove didn't even so much as flinch. He only stood to his full height with his back to the car, a popsicle stick prodding out of his mouth. He glanced over at the others and grinned as he withdrew the stick clean.
Oh?
How about this water-based activity? Most of us are still in swimsuits.
Exciting.
Isn't that an interesting proposition? Are we just gonna frolic through some random person's sprinklers? The challenge had been issued and Baxter threw down the gauntlet. He held his own popsicle stick between his teeth, lifting each leg one at a time to take off his shoes and socks before abandoning them to the road. Cove's eyes popped open with shock, but he didn't allow the surprise to keep him from moving. He darted off to the lawns. As Baxter came sprinting from behind, it looked more like Cove was running away from him rather than into the sprinklers. My snow cone! Terry complained, sticking the paper cone higher in the air as she stayed well and good away from the sprinkler spray.
No.
It'll melt! Terry had a wetsuit on, but that wasn't going to protect her snow cone by a long shot.
Let's do it!
Come on, Terry, live a little. In spite of the fact that Miranda had led the charge for cover, she was easily convinced to jump into the fray. Skipping to the sidewalk with her ice cream in tow, she waved the two boys down to stop and wait for her. Terry sidled up to your side, clutching her honestly already melted dessert. Her eyes kept going between her much-beloved treat and the sparkling sprinklers, but she seemed to have chosen to preserve the sanctity of the snow cone instead. Forget everyone else, those sprinklers were yours. There was no need for a preamble or introduction. Kicking off your shoes, you ran straight into the sprinklers to catch up with the others, roaring with enthusiasm as the water sprayed overhead. The temperature of the water was bracing. Odds had been good that it'd be cold, but it was almost on the next level. Did the suburbs put ice in their pipes? Still, you weren't about to regret the decision now. You planted yourself in front of the most powerful sprinkler. There wasn't any reason to chase after the drops when you could just stand there and get hit with the full force of a shot. It was safe to assume that you'd be the most drenched of anyone. You were all fancy-footed and careful until suddenly you heard Randy cry out in surprise. She was covering her mouth and held what remained of her crumbling sugar cone. Yeah. Duh. The ice cream had fallen, abandoned to the grass. It was one thing to have damp ice cream, but it was another if it fell to the ground altogether. Everyone stopped except for the sprinklers on their back and forth paths, and Terry Brooke. Terry reached the wall of water, sliding across the grass until she could get a leg up. On one knee, she lifted her snow cone in offering as if it were the finest bouquet of roses. "Randy, will you do me the great honor?" "Oh!" Miranda lit up brighter than any star, giggling as she wiped the last streaks of ice cream from her fingers. She took the offered snow cone, dark hair falling forward as she smiled softly at Terry. Terry bounced up from the ground, dusting off what grass had adhered itself to her legs. "You know, it was just ice cream. I would have survived." Terry was aghast, her hand at her clavicle before she reached out for the snow cone.
All right.
"I'm taking it back then." "No, you already gave it to me." Cove's eyes met yours as you turned in the direction of the boys, and he smiled, shrugging as if to say that he didn't know what to do either. The two were already invested in a new game of keep away until Cove stole it right out of their hands, only to be immediately dogpiled by both. You turned to search for Baxter to see if he was going to join the fray, but he was distracted. "What decision are we trying to make now, Baxter?" His attention was squarely fixed on Miranda and Terry, watching as they argued about whose snow cone it was and if Cove really had a stake in the matter. "I see." He hummed, stroking his chin with consideration before brown eyes met yours, and the thoughtful expression gave way to a lax smile. He chuckled, gesturing to them as he gave you a look as if to ask if this was typical. In answer to which you readily provided a big thumbs up. "Hey, nice job."
I'm on it.
"For Randy? Anything." Terry beamed in reply, elbowing Cove in the ribs before the sudden hiss of another sprinkler rising from its earthly tomb reminded her of where they were. Randy shotgunned the rest of Terry's snow cone. A champion was born. Terry responded by crushing the paper cone against her forehead, to Miranda's delight, though she did get some of the syrup in her eye. And it wasn't long before that interlude was forgotten. Dashing and leaping resumed in earnest. But all good things must come to an end. Eventually, the sprinklers retreated into the ground, and all that remained of the celebration was 5 dripping young adults. Boo! I was just getting started. Should have gone on longer. Honestly, I think it went on really long for being a bunch of sprinklers. The sun was situated almost perfectly halfway below the horizon. It was probably about time to call it quits for the day. Actually, you were really sure to call it when another breeze swept by and caught onto the now soaked and very cold fabric of your clothes. Shivering in place, you watched as Terry and Miranda immediately found each other again, the girls clinging desperately to each other for warmth. Cove tugged on the hem of his shirt, pinching it away from his body before allowing it to fall back with a wet slap. "I should have taken this off before I went in." He promptly rectified that and took off his shirt, cheeks pinking with embarrassment when the girls took a break from being cold to whistle at him. "Weet woo, Cove Holden!" "Guys, I wasn't wearing this at the beach. It's not different now." "Weet woo, Cove Holden!" "Take it off." Cove wrung the water out of it before swinging the shirt over his shoulder instead of pulling it on again. And before anybody says anything, it's going to be colder wearing that than not wearing it. I do regret that we did not bring our towels. He ambled into the roadway to retrieve his abandoned shoes and socks. Baxter then returned to his car's side, as did the entire gang. To the side, Terry and Miranda remained linked. Their knees were practically knocking into each other. You couldn't pry them apart with a crowbar if you tried. That had to be effective. You shook your head in amusement at the situation. Baxter then gave the group a once-over. Miranda and Terry were still chattering their teeth, and Cove, in spite of claims to the contrary, wasn't doing too hot either. It would be no trouble if we were to return now. I truly don't mind if the car gets wet. Randy and Terry vehemently, they disagreed with the suggestion. "It's a rental. They'll probably charge you if we all track all this water in."
You know.
"Not exactly." We can at least wait until we're not dripping everywhere anymore, right? Even if we're not all the way dry. He glanced at the car, then to the others. Baxter already started reaching for the door handle when they disagreed. He allowed his hand to fall to his side. I suppose it would be tragic to ruin leather upholstery. Thank you. It is kind of you to be so considerate.
In that case...
I am certain my acquaintance will appreciate it. Baxter, where did you get the car? Baxter, that's not from Hertz, is it? Enterprise? You borrowed a friend's car? Terry mouthed acquaintance to Miranda, then over to you, only to be met with equally confused shrugs from you both. Cove shook his head until water started flying from his hair. It splattered against the side of the car, already wet from the sprinklers earlier. Hey! Cove! It's fine with Baxter, then we can stay for a while longer. Absolutely. Staying longer didn't mean staying still, though. You and the others walked down the sidewalk. Bye, car, see you later. Sandals and shoes squelching with a residual wetness as you made your way throughout the neighborhood. The neighborhood, but not your neighborhood.
So...
It's weird that it doesn't smell like the ocean. Cove's nose crinkled as your head perked up. He smiled as if to confirm that you two had been on the same page the minute he even mentioned it.
Oh yes.
I find the scent of lawn clippings rather relaxing, personally. Okay. Your band of 5 continued to meander past the street sign, and Terry narrowly managed to avoid getting her shoe stuck in a gap in the concrete. You know something? I know a lot of somethings. Miranda offered cheekily, grinning from ear to ear as she looked in your direction. Good work, Randy, but I don't know how we got from the beach to here. The very important quest for ice cream, remember? She swatted Baxter in the side with her free arm. He rubbed at the place, and you wondered if it actually hurt, or if it was just for the dramatics.
Hey!
You can add sprinkler running to your list of water-based summer activities, and since we're talking about your past water exploits... Cove already tensed up before Terry even asked her question. How'd you end up skinny dipping anyways? Cove dropped his face in his hands, shaking in disbelief, while Miranda snorted a quiet, "Oh my gosh." It was tempting to point out that Cove was the one who brought up the water-based activities to get Baxter sprinkler running in the first place, but you resisted the urge. Impressive segue, Terry.
What?
You guys aren't curious? I'm just asking what we're all thinking. The people want to know. I'm the people. Baxter gave a subtle, non-committal shrug. It's not nearly as intriguing as you might imagine.
Honestly.
I believe it was about 3 years ago. Baxter. You were what, 16 then? You went skinny dipping at 16? I was vacationing at a lake cabin and was dared by those in my company. A dare? Tale as old as time. I believe it was around midnight and the water was freezing, but it did make for a memorable trip. As I said, it isn't a particularly remarkable story. When you heard the sparse details, it was easy to believe. It seemed exactly like the sort of thing that Baxter would do. He may be accommodating, but the minute that Cove challenged him to something, it was on.
Now.
More remarkable was today's adventure, I wager. It's not every day that I am able to go running through the sprinklers or chase an ice cream truck across the city. Much less with such delightful company. Oh, you. Terry let one hand dangle daintily. Her opposite one was covering her mouth as she acted like one of the many old ladies you could find around Sunset Bird. Baxter didn't reply, gaze now fixated on the sidewalk in front of him, as you all continued ahead, one square of concrete after another. No, truly. It reminded me I'm not nearly as old as I might sound. He grazed the back of his neck with his hand, holding it there. Then he stared up at the sky, but it was clear he wasn't staring at the clouds. He was searching for something past it that wasn't there anymore. The last time I've done anything of this nature was when I was a child, running around with my old friends and causing havoc to our poor, unsuspecting town. We were happy to? Baxter hummed comfortably, allowing the conversation to lapse into silence. Oh, it got night. The twilight stroll continued until the sky turned dark and the street lamps flickered on. Even as night fell, you thought there might still be a chance to cling to the thread of this day. Everyone was sufficiently dried enough anyway to not consider yourselves liabilities. When the vehicle came into view, Cove mumbled. Staying outside in swimsuits until it's nighttime and getting ice cream. Really is like we're kids again. Not just being kids, but kids on vacation. Well, Baxter's on a vacation, but it's like someone's birthday or the 4th of July. Fireworks! Baxter dropped his keys, startled when Terry suddenly screamed.
Sorry.
He waved off the apology, kneeling down to pick them up. That was the second time his attempts to open the car had been interrupted. Perhaps the third time would be the charm. What was that about? We can't go home yet. I just remembered there are fireworks today. Cove and Miranda looked at one another before they turned their scrutiny onto Terry.
Huh?
For what? I think it's to celebrate an opening or something. We probably can't get into the real event, but we can see it with our eyes for free. She made 2 circles with her hands, holding them up to her aforementioned eyes as she advanced closer to Cove, who lightly pushed her back with a hand. They can't stop the public out from seeking explosions in the sky.
Seriously?
Really? Another last-minute rush trip? Cove sighed, shaking his head in disapproval. Ah, come on, Cove. Don't be a wet blanket. Terry wrote him off, likely aware that Cove couldn't help being wet. Turning to face you, Miranda, and Baxter, the 3 that stood in the way of her night continuing for an hour or 2 more.
So?
What about you, Kit? Randy? Baxter? Want to see some fireworks? Terry continued on without waiting for an answer. Isn't today all about summer experiences? What's more summer than fireworks? But I don't care either way. Honestly, we already did the fireworks last time. I wasn't impressed with them. You looked away. Terry sighed. What about you, Miranda?
I'm not sure.
It's already been a long day. If Cove and Kit don't want to go. No, I mean we can. Just... Now I feel bad. I'd be okay with it. Just what you guys want to do. If you guys want to, then I'm fine with it. Cove nodded. It's not like I'm anti-fireworks. In turn, 4 sets of eyes turned to Baxter. As a driver, his answer made or broke the plan. He chuckled softly. In for a penny, in for a pound. I'll go.
Honestly.
Genuinely, there's nothing better to occupy my time tonight. We better hurry, or we might miss it. Cove rolled his eyes, but laughed. There was no time to lose. The fireworks were sure to start soon. If you didn't want to miss any part of it, that meant you need to book it now. The gang hurried into the car and were slowly blessed with warmth after Baxter turned on the heater, and it began to kick in. Terry wiggled in her seat, proudly announcing that she had the additional gift of seat warmers to the envy of everyone else in the car. However, the goal wasn't to sit there enjoying modern accommodations. It was to get back out of the car as quickly as possible. It took a while to get out of the winding streets of the neighborhood, but eventually Baxter reached the freeway and zipped straight to the city. For the second time that day, you were met with the silhouettes of skyscrapers in the near distance, but now they were illuminated by explosive bursts of greens and purples. Oh no, we missed it! It's starting! Oh no, are we going to miss it? Baxter's hand rested on the gear shift, digits curling against the handle before he switched into the right lane to exit off the freeway. Wait, the GPS said... No, there's somewhere outside the city that I intended to visit. I believe we can stop by there and catch the show. It's an unblocked viewing area. Okay.
Oh yeah!
Baxter, you are brilliant!
Woo!
Pedal to the metal! Unless you're already speeding, then don't go any faster. Cove and you turned towards Miranda, but she was hardly paying attention, her hands covering her cheeks as she cheered Baxter on while simultaneously advocating for traffic safety. Baxter tightened his grip on the wheel, changing a few more lanes before he exited and threaded through another tangle of local streets. Eventually, the car rumbled to a stop as a waterside path appeared in the dark. Okay. Oh, different from the other waterside path that we saw the fireworks in. Everyone piled out one after another, sprinting from the parking lot. Cove, Miranda, and Terry scrambled up the edge of the path at the water's edge. Baxter stayed in the middle between the start and the end, folding his arms as he hovered behind the crew. His eyes were less fixated on the sights unfolding before you than they were focused on the other three. High in the sky and far away, it was the perfect way to watch fireworks. Less crowded than it would have been in the city, and quieter than it would have been there too. It was kind of funny. You and your group lived in or around the city almost all your lives, and it was Baxter who found this place for you to enjoy. Tourists did tend to put in the effort to find scenic spots. People who could theoretically see something every day didn't always take the opportunities around them. Randy pointed out a golden firework and beamed.
Woo!
That's so cool! Terry held up a hand for a high five, and Miranda obliged her. Terry whooped and shot you a smile.
Hey.
What color do you think the next one will be? Without giving Baxter a glance, Cove answered immediately. Green. It was orange. Baxter chuckled, but wasn't interested in calling Cove out for being wrong. Is that your favorite color? Green?
That's...
It's one of them. I think that's nice. It matches you. Huh. And is yours black? It's one of them. Cove smirked just a little and left the conversation there. We are doing Baxter's route, technically. This seems weird picking favorites. Baxter had continued watching the other three before he suddenly turned left. His eyes were on you as soon as you got near.
How are you?
Enjoying the view? He shrugged. It was alright. Well, that's no small relief, I will say. The others had taken notice of your absence at the waterfront, and I began migrating the crowd farther back. Baxter glanced over his shoulder when he noticed you staring at something behind him. He waved as they jogged to the car's side.
What's wrong?
Is everything okay? And are you? Miranda's brows knitted together with clear worry. We can head home if you're not.
Yeah.
It's no problem. They were sweet for worrying, but you shook your head. It wasn't that you were upset, you were just happier where you were. Same as Baxter. I'm fine, don't worry. You're missing the show. You can watch it where you want to.
Is that all right?
Yeah. Still, despite your reassurances, Cove searched your eyes for any answers to the contrary. Do you want me to stay back with you? If you want. I guess the closest to that is you don't have to.
It's okay.
I know I don't have to, but I want to, okay? Join us. This is just the same options that we had before. Yeah, sure. Baxter picked a good place to watch from. Every point and every angle of the view was dazzling. The fireworks sprayed colors across the sky, and for a moment you were holding your breath before whatever came next. No words could adequately describe that anticipation. Try it as Terry might, you could still hear her cheer at every new spectacle. Your eyes continued to search the sky when Baxter spoke up. His voice was impossibly quiet in the way things are when it's important. I really am lucky to have met you all this summer. I won't forget it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Cove scratched his cheek awkwardly. Baxter only laughed in reply. I do hope you will get used to my candor by the end of this summer. None of these. I guess I won't forget it either? I don't know. He smiled at him. He returned it with equal fondness, then turned his attention again to the bright sky before you. One explosion of color followed another, and the exuberance of your friends couldn't be measured. You'd seen fireworks before, they weren't anything new. But all those times you attended events before, it wasn't anything close to this. You nearly missed it, and it wasn't even a show, really, for you to see. That's what made it special. The effort it took for you to get here, the place you were watching it from, and the people you were watching it with. The finale of the fireworks took center stage. Dozens scattered across the sky, and the sparks from them descended into the sea below. It is as if they were impossibly far away, distant stars, and yet also close enough to reach out and touch them. In the back of your mind, you knew that there would never be another day like this one. When it was over, it'd be over forever. And that made it a precious experience. You vowed to hold on to the memories, feelings, and this one single moment for as long as you possibly could. Okay, that was long. That was long. I might have to split up this episode. I mean, for you guys, you'll have already seen whether or not it's split up, but we're at 2 hours and 12 minutes right now. So, I do think that I liked Baxter's version of Hang more than I did the regular version of Hang, but it's definitely interesting being able to compare and contrast the two and what the difference is. As I said, I'm gonna run through all of these events where Baxter doesn't appear because it's gonna be the same. Nothing really much changes. Then we will do... I can't decide whether we should do sightseeing or late shift next. What exactly the plan is there, but we'll do one of them. And then do the others. I don't know, maybe we do sightseeing first, and then we head on over to late shift and boating. Well, maybe we do sightseeing, drinks, mountain planning, and then late shift and boating? I don't know. I'll think about it. But that's going to be the end for this episode. We went a little bit longer than expected. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you are enjoying this series so far, and I will see you in the next episode for either sightseeing or late shift, whichever one I decide.